Hey, it's Enlightenment Garden. It's November 11th today. I live in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I have about a half an acre in an HOA, and about 3 years ago I planted out a large number of fruit trees and edibles in my yard, as well as medicinal plants. So I did that for a few reasons. One, the self-reliance. Number two, just being able to grow things that you can't get in stores, like chocolate sapote, white sapote, things that spoil easily, that don't ship or store well. And then another reason is just the fact that I can control what goes into the soil that feeds these trees. Well, there's organic choices, you know, a lot of organic fruit comes from outside the US where they may not have the same standards. When you grow your own food using organic practices, you can be sure that your food is free of pesticides and tastes as good as possible with the nutrients that you're building in your soil. When you grow a fresh fruit from your yard, it tastes 100 times better than what you get at a store, where they often don't pick it when it's ripe. I have a lot of videos out there on my channel, instructional, so you can learn, you know, how I went about building my soil life. All the various plants, I do highlights on them, tastings. So if you look through past videos, you can find a lot of information on my channel. I do this to help educate people in this area. 3 years ago I was in the boat where I didn't know what you could grow here. I learned from other local gardeners, so I just want to kind of pay that forward and share the wealth with others. So I'll be going through my full yard today. I'm not going to talk about every tree in detail. Like I said, my channel provides a lot of information, detailed information on these trees. This pond behind me was just installed last week, and so you can check out that pond series if you're interested in ponds. I'm also going to link a spreadsheet in the description area. That's a place where you can find information about everything I'm growing, when I planted it, and where I got it from. Just for background, I moved to this property about 7 years ago, and I did plant some plants initially. So you can see there's just a very tall hedge of ficus along this path. I'm just going to go behind here so you can get a sense of how large these trees are. Now, ficus are gorgeous evergreen trees, but they do get quite large. You can see the trunk size on these, and they're multi-trunked. So I come in here and bring them down to about 12-13 feet each year, because their root structures are quite invasive too. But nice windbreak. If I had to do it over, I would have probably done a wall of clumping bamboo instead, because that's a little bit easier to maintain. I just pruned this tree back recently. This is my oldest guava tree, my most mature. This has been in the ground for 4 years or so. And guava produces hundreds of fruit, so it's a very easy one to grow here. This one is in full sun. It's looking just a little sparse because I did heavily prune this recently. It's just to reshape it. Give it some renewed energy from pruning. Guava does appreciate a pruning once in a while. They can get quite large too, if just left. Now, looking out this way, this was an area I just recently converted from lawn to a garden space. This area is more tropical in nature. It's not as much edible. In front here is a giant timber bamboo, clumping bamboo, that I put in spring. Here I have a Nogami mango. This is a sea breeze bamboo in front. And then we have some canna lilies and tuberose on the border here, just for some color. As I pan this way, you can see a pond. This was just installed last week. No fish in it as of yet, but we'll have some goldfish in here. So I did a full pond series on the build. There's a 5-day build. There is a nice stream running in this way, so I'll be able to plant some edibles in there, like watercress, herbs. Over here is a Florida Prince peach tree. Nice low chill variety. Produces a good quantity of fruit every year. I want to point out this tree. This is the Royal Poinciana. This is a 3-year-old tree. This was planted in spring 2016. This had some dieback this past winter. We were down to the mid-20s for a week. This tree has come back very nicely. Royal Poinciana is something that you can definitely do here. I was lucky in the sense that my first 2 winters with this tree were mild, and I didn't really have to protect it. It does fine in summer, but in winter it does not do well in freezing temperatures. It is a tropical. So plan to frost protect it its first few years until it gets a good size. I just want to come in here and show you how thick the trunk is now. It's a nice size now. Main thing is to protect that trunk. Okay, here I have a little stand of Alphonse Carr bamboo. It was a transplant I took, or a division, from a clump that I purchased from a nursery. So once you have established bamboo in your yard, you can divide it and propagate it. You know, plant it elsewhere in your yard or even sell it. Over here is one of the trees that I highly recommend for gardeners in the Phoenix area. Very productive shrub. This is a wonderful type pomegranate. See lots of fruit. And I also want to point out these bags. You can see I have some burlap bags. What this does is protect the fruit from leaf-footed bugs. That's the one enemy to the pomegranate. Leaf-footed bugs will basically inject your fruit with the toxin. They'll suck all the moisture out, making it inedible. I was using these organza bags, but these are so thin and they really do fall apart when exposed to full sun for a summer here. So I really like these burlap bags because they protect the fruit. Also, they protect it from sun scald too, because the fabric is thick enough. Here I have a Canadria fig. This is just a young fig tree. I have not tried the fruit on that yet. Here we have a 3-in-1 apple. This definitely is on door fruit stock. Didn't know it at the time, but really hasn't grown much. and the Dorset and Anna are the dominant grafts. The Fuji has not really done anything. Here we have a Chicago hardy fig. It's definitely one that I recommend. One of my favorite figs that I'm growing, just because it's so very productive and really quite tasty. It's a berry type fig. You can see the birds have gotten to this fruit. So I failed to bag this. But each branch will put on a good number of figs, as you can see. It's a dwarf type fig tree, so it's going to stay relatively small. Here the yard starts to get pretty dense. I have a lot of trees growing in here. High density plantings, about 5 feet apart on many of them. This is a Washington navel orange, again on a dwarf fruit stock. Has not grown a whole lot. It's about 5 feet tall. Pretty bushy and productive. Any kind of citrus really does well here. Over here I have this gorgeous Boswellia sacra. This is known as frankincense. This frankincense tree was planted as a small stick. A cutting that was just barely rooted out that I got from Mini Tree in Tempe. And over the 6 years this has grown into this gorgeous specimen tree. Frankincense is said to be harmed if exposed to freezing temperatures, but that's really when they're quite young. You can see this trunk is massive, multi-trunked I should say, and it too had some damage like the Poinciana. Up at the top I lost about 2 to 3 feet of growth in the canopy, but down below it was protected. So these can do very well in the ground, and we'll see later in the tour another frankincense plant that I just planted this year from a cutting that I personally rooted from this tree. I do have a small raised garden bed here. Peppers, tomatoes, basil, zucchini, herbs of all types. In front we have a panache tiger fig. And here is a Fuji apple. Both of these are productive trees here with our chill hours. This is a Loquat apium that was just stellar with fruit production, and the fruit really amazing. So it's interspecific in that it's a combination of apricot and plum, more on the apricot side. And you can see the leaves are starting to yellow and drop as we're changing seasons here. Right next door I've got a Eureka Lemon. Lemons will give you a good crop of fruit. To the right of this Eureka Lemon is this huge Pakistan mulberry. This is a purple type of mulberry. Definitely not a dwarf. These can get quite large, need to be pruned every winter. But a wonderful infrastructure tree that provides a lot of delicious berries. Just make sure you have some room when you put these in the ground, because they grow very quickly. At the foot of this Pakistan mulberry is a grafted type of Surinam cherry. This is the Black Star. It's been in the ground for a couple years now, and it has produced fruit. If you want Surinam cherries quickly, I would go with the grafted variety. Seedlings can take many years to produce, and the fruit quality is not necessarily good. Bought this guava tree in front as a Costa Rican red pear. It is not that type. I'm not quite sure what variety this is. It does have distinct pink and white guavas that it bears. The flavor's different than the other types I'm growing. This one was set back by winter. It has not produced fruit this year, but it definitely has come back in growth. In front here is a seedling type of the red Surinam. This is a cultivar called Lolita. It has not produced any fruit yet, despite that it was larger than my grafted tree. 15 gallons versus 1 gallon, and a couple years older. This one still has not produced fruit. Next to this Surinam is my favorite type of peach. This is the Flor d'Aglo. It's a white peach variety out of Florida that's low chill. Has always been very productive for me and very early. It got caught in the frost in February, so it didn't get a lot of fruit off of it this year, but generally that's not true, and I get quite a bit. Really good variety here. Right next door is a gold nugget Mandarin. This is a young tree. I still have not gotten fruit off of this yet. Right behind the Mandarin is a 20th century Asian pear. Low chill Asian pear. Like the peach tree, not a whole lot of fruit this year. That late frost hit the blooming cycle just wrong. But I did do a lot of grafts this year to this tree. So this is an 8-in-1 pear tree. Easy one to graft, easy one to grow in the Phoenix area. Across the way, I've got some lemongrass here. And I have a sad looking jaboticaba. This is a Brazilian grape. This poor guy got fried up in our summer. It was used to the full shade of a ficus tree. When I cut those 2 ficus trees down in the back, it exposed the shrub to full sun. Jaboticaba does not care for full afternoon sun. It really does need filtered light. So this one was set back. But now that it's in a nicer location, protected by this lemongrass and this fig next door, should do a lot better. Okay, next door is a sprawling fig tree. This is a raspberry latte. It's a seedling variety that's quite robust. And produces really nice tasting dark-skinned berry figs. Down below is a Garden Delight mini nectarine. It's white nectarine. If you have limited space, something like this or a Bonanza peach might be a good option. Here we've got a Shangri-La Mulberry. This is another type of purple mulberry. It's more of a dwarf though. It's not going to get as large as the Pakistan. It has beautiful large leaves on this one. It's a fairly new plant. I put this in last year. Here I've got another fig tree. This was purchased as a variety that proves out to not be that one. Not sure what this is, but I top worked it in spring, so I have some grafts here. We have Sucret. This is a French variety, and then a highly reputed variety called Col de Dama Gregantina. I have 2 grafts of that. the birds got the fruit in summer, so I haven't been able to enjoy this one yet. Over here we've got a variegated pink Eureka Lemon. I'll mention in this video, you know, you really only need one lemon tree because they're so productive. This one, because of its genetics, it's a little bit weaker than a normal Eureka Lemon. You can see that the leaves are beautiful, variegated with this cream color. Can even have some purple mixed in there. The fruit is also variegated, yellow with the green stripes. And I have to say, this one's really worth growing. The fruit is so aromatic, it's a bit sweeter than a typical lemon, and it is pink inside. So this one's a really nice one to grow. Here I've got a Panamint nectarine. Nectarines are doable here. They do take a little bit longer than peaches to give you fruit, but I did get over a dozen nectarines this year. Over here I've got an Arbequina olive. This is a Spanish olive variety. Again, dwarf. A lot of the trees that you'll see in my yard are dwarf. That just helps me be able to keep them at the right growing height. So I'm not having to do as much pruning as I would have if this was on, you know, a non-dwarf rootstock. Swinging back around to the Poinciana, right adjacent is this Hollywood plum. Now this variety has not been very productive for me. I don't know if it just takes a little bit longer, but the fruit has not really set much. This is a low chill plum, but for whatever reason, after 3 years, I really haven't gotten much at all from this. I am grafting onto it other varieties. Try to make this a more productive tree. A couple of plants I want to still mention. So next to that unknown fig tree over here is a Che. It's also known as Mandarin melonberry. This is closely related to mulberry. You can see that it does have thorns, so be careful with that. But this basically produces berries, red berries, that are crossed between a fig and watermelon in taste. I've gotten to the point where fruit has set, yellow in appearance, but never ripens to the red. So I wasn't sure if it was a problem with it not being a self-fertile variety, the tree that I originally got. So I went ahead and in spring grafted on a known self-fertile variety. So I now should have components needed for this to set fruit, but we'll see. It's been a couple years now, and unlike mulberries, you know, I'm not getting fruit right away. Next to the Che is a Katy apricot. Really nice variety for the Phoenix area. Does well here, fruits reliably. Got a lot of apricots in springtime from this tree. You can see, much like my other trees, this is pruned short so that I can get to the fruit. I'm going to step back and point out the tree in front, which is an all-in-one almond, self-fertile type of almond that's also dwarf. Took about 3 years for me to finally get almonds off this tree. It's a nice variety as it is low chill. In front here is a nectaplum bare root that I planted this year. It's in kind of a bad spot just because I did take the ficus tree down and it gets a lot of sun. This is a cross between a nectarine and a plum. Hasn't done a whole lot. Gonna give this one a chance though. I tend to like to give my trees at least 2 years before I make the choice to pull it or not. I have heard this variety does pretty well here. So we'll see. It might just be slower to adjust and root out. I'm going to just walk towards this path here. Turn around so you can get a perspective on the size of this white mulberry. This is a Persian. As with all of your full-size mulberries, you're going to want to prune them heavily in winter. I actually shaped the branches on this one a bit, so you can see in here, mulberry branches don't tend to like to grow horizontally like this. They tend to favor a vertical structure. In winter you can actually shape the limbs a bit. You can pull them down. They're malleable, flexible. So I've got a lot of scaffolding limbs in here now. The birds love this tree. It provides lots of shade here. Down here is my Mexican cream guava. Now, if you saw my planting video that I did last fall, I had mentioned that I was taking a chance and was hoping for a temperate winter. Well, we did not get that. We got down to the mid-20s, and that actually froze this plant to the ground. Since then, it is coming back. You can see some growth, so it didn't completely kill this off, but it did hit the tree pretty hard. A little bit of a rough beginning, but it is making its way back. In front there is a 3-year-old white Cuban guava. And this did not produce a whole lot for me this year. It was damaged from the frost as well, but it is a more mature tree, so it wasn't too bad on damage. You can see the size of the trunk there, so it's more substantial. So white guava can do pretty well here as well. I'll just say that it's not as hardy as the pink variety. It does enjoy afternoon shade, if possible for it. It'll burn up in full sun, and it's not as cold tolerant. It's going to get pretty damaged in mid-20s and below. Here I've got a Dancy Tangerine. This one is producing some fruit now. Next to the tangerine, I've got an Asian lemon bamboo. This is my favorite clumping bamboo, just for the aesthetics. You can see that it doesn't really leaf down on the bottom of the canes. It naturally keeps that area clean. It has these beautiful feathery bamboo leaves that come out. It does have also a striking pattern on the canes. You can see yellow cane with the green stripe. There's some new shoots coming in. And this actually was a replacement for the Ficus that I took out last year. So this will provide nice shade. It just is a couple years off from being mature. Over here is a variegated guava. This is a honeymoon variety. Fairly rare type of guava. Interesting taste. One of my favorites. This got badly damaged, even though it's a pink type guava. It got really badly damaged from the frost, and it has come back nicely. But clearly these plants that came back from such a damaging winter put their energy into vegetative growth, as it should, rather than fruit production. Over here is kind of an interesting one. This is the sugar apple. I put this in the ground, it survived winter, and it was dormant all the way up to, I think, about 6 weeks ago. Suddenly I see foliage come out. I'm not sure if this is going to make it. Bizarre behavior when a plant fails to put any growth on in the growing season. It's pretty much guaranteed that this is going to die this winter, as it pretty much regressed. This is another type of guava. This is the pink Barbie. And this one got a little bit of damage. Not much, but it hadn't fruited this year. Now it's putting on some bloom, so I might get a spring crop from this one. Some more flowers coming in. Once your guava matures, it'll give you 2 crops. You know, one in the summer, the main crop, and then another one that will flower in the fall and fruit in the springtime. This is a Nogami Kumquat, another type of citrus. Interesting fruit. This is a great one to use as a hedge. Stays fairly small and produces sweet and sour type citrus. Right in front here is a bear's lime, or Persian lime. Very productive tree here. Produces hundreds of limes. Straight in front there is a brown turkey fig. If you were to find figs in the store, it would probably be this variety, that or Black Mission. Very common, easy to get fig tree here. This is a red Malaysian guava. Very tasty variety of guava. It tastes like a nuance of strawberry mixed with guava. A little bit on the sensitive side as well. The frost really did this one in. Again, had to chop it back to the main trunk. All of the limbs died. And this has come back. No fruit this year, but it came back. Back to the peach tree that I mentioned earlier. There's some daylily in here, turmeric, and this is a Barbados Cherry. This is actually a transplant I did. You know, as things grow in, initially you plant things you think you're a good spot, and then microclimates can change a bit. You know, more trees grow in, it shades out, so I moved this into full sun here. If we cut back to the back wall here, a few more things to point out. This little plant here is a Pitanga tuba. Didn't do a whole lot this year. It was extremely small. At purchase. This is a Parafianca pomegranate that I planted this year. This was in a container. Nice variety of pomegranate. This is the Che, self-fertile type of Che. I bought this plant actually to graft onto the other tree, and then just decided I'd go ahead and plant this as well back here. That's another replacement for the Ficus. So this is the silver striped bamboo. The Ficus was located there, so this will help screen, provide shade protection to these plants in a few years. Down in here we have a Merino Sapodilla. This took the cold surprisingly well. It's a very slow grower, still have not gotten any fruit. It has flower, just no fruit set at this time. Those can take quite a few years to be productive if you get them small like I did. This is a fig tree that I bought as Cadota. It ends up being strawberry vert rootstock. And I have a Bordeaux Blanca Negra grafted onto it, of which I have not yet tried the fruit. This is a generic tropical pink guava. It's another one that I pruned recently just to stimulate some more growth. It's got a pretty good sized trunk on it now. Very productive tree. Just was getting a little unruly, so pruned it for shape. It's starting to sprout again, branching. You can see I have a small little hedge of ficus here, just 2 ficus trees shaped into a column like we saw initially in the video. Just provides more shade and wind protection. In this area I have a grafted champagne loquat. It's looking a little rough. I over fertilized it. Loquat's very sensitive to fertilizer, so I burned it up pretty badly, overdoing it on that tree. Loquats can be grown successfully here. Just protect them from the sun with shade cloth their first couple of summers, or plant them maybe in an understory. That there is a Persian lilac. Has not bloomed for me yet. So we've covered the east portion of my yard. I'm going to start walking towards the center of the yard.